Guys, so for today's video, I'm going to shoot it straight. I think there are certain vices that hold us all back in life. And if we kind of gave up these things, or at the very least made them less of a thing, I think we'd be far better off for it. We'd be way more productive. So one of the first things I want to talk about that I did touch on the other channel in a video from like a couple months ago is that a lot of you guys are watching porn and a lot of you guys are messed up because of it. It's holding you back, plain and simple, in a myriad of ways. I mean, it's making it where you're unproductive because you're looking at this stuff too much. Even if you don't think it's that bad, you might be looking at it a few days a week. You might be looking at it every day. It might be one of those things where when you're done with it, you feel ashamed and you feel like you just feel bad about yourself. And I'm going to be honest, it's going to hold you back. It's something that I obviously was into as well many years ago. As of now, it's been about 4.5 years since I last looked at it. And it's not the easiest thing to break if you're in the routine with it. So I'm going to get right to it. There's one thing that you guys can do if you feel like it's something you don't want a part of your life anymore and you want to break free from it. And there's an app called Covenant Eyes. And I believe it's like $10-12 a month. And it's like an accountability app. So it basically you pick somebody, family member, girlfriend, wife, whatever, and it shares anything that's flagged basically that you look at, whether it be on your phone or your computer or whatever. And this is one of those ways where the shame of someone else, a third party, particularly a loved one, seeing what you're looking at, that will keep you from looking at this stuff, and it'll help you break free from this cycle if you're engulfed in it. Because porn makes you weak, guys, plain and simple. It makes you unproductive, lazy, weak. It's one of those things where it's going to hold you back from finding meaningful relationships, which it will. I mean, I feel like it's taken me years to get my brain not as messed up from that sort of stuff, because it gives you, it leads by the wrong example. It's not accurate. We all know this. It's been talked about, so I'm not going to belabor the point too much. But it's one of those things, if this is one of those things that you seek out for dopamine, for that rush, that hit, it's leading you astray. And we're in a society now where everything is dopamine related. Everything we do, dopamine. Dopamine's flooding into our brains at all times because of our phones and because of all this access to stuff we have. And that's just one of the first things I can think of. Another thing, video games. Same kind of thing. Like, I used to love video games, haven't played them in like over a decade, maybe 15 years, because video games suck you down a rabbit hole where you're playing these video games for hours on end. And before you know it, it's like 3 a.m. and you haven't even slept, and you're just like lost in this game that's not really offering any significance or substance in life. So that's something I try to stay away from now, as tempting as it may be to like get a gaming console and play Madden or NCAA football or something. What tends to happen is you just get completely lost in this, and you're on this stuff for hours and hours. You're not productive. You're not chasing your goals. Because at the end of the day, guys, all this stuff makes it to where you're not chasing your goals. And without chasing some kind of goal, you're unfulfilled. At the end of the day, like, man needs a pursuit. This channel is about helping men, and I have to be straight up with you guys. Like, I'm not gonna try to act macho and cuss and say I'm perfect, because that's not the case either. But at the end of the day, we need a pursuit. We need a goal. A lot of you guys, when you don't have a goal, you feel off. You don't feel happy. You feel ornery, irritable. You just don't have this fulfillment in life. So these things all these things take you away from your goal. And that's what the moral of the story is. Another big one, social media. For the last few weeks, because I haven't been perfect with this either, I haven't really been going on Instagram other than to look at client messages and make the occasional post. But I'm not like scrolling through my feed or going on there too much. I've stayed off Twitter, because these things just constantly inundate you with constant information, where you're constantly getting this hit of this new post, all this new information. And what I found with Twitter is Twitter was making me like feel very negative and depressed, because I was getting all this news about stuff that was going on in the world. And I just became this like fear monger in my head, where I was depressed and I was nervous about the future. And I was, it just got to the point where it was like I was so miserable because I was looking at all this bad news all the time. And I was like, I don't need to, it's good to be aware, but you don't need to constantly flood yourselves with this and become Debbie Downer. Like, we still got to raise up and be positive and make a difference. The world needs difference makers. You know what prevents difference makers is this kind of stuff. All these dopamine areas that we go to, all these areas that we seek out. I haven't been on TikTok. Screw that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going on there. Instagram, I'm trying to make less and less of a thing. I really am only keeping it going from a business perspective. And then Twitter, I never post, but I'm like, I don't need to be flooded with this negative stuff all the time. And Facebook, haven't been on in 100 years. It's just, this stuff is not good for us, guys. This isn't good for us as men. It makes us where we're constantly, and you know what I mean. Like, you guys do the same things. You look at your phone 300 times a day, and you're constantly looking for updates, and you don't even know why, because you're so programmed to this stuff. And you're just always looking for new stuff. I mean, we see so much stuff on a daily basis that we can't retain it all. You guys, everyone is so overly stimulated that we can't retain any of the information we're even reading or looking at, because there's so much that we see on a daily basis. I mean, honestly, guys, you should freaking unsubscribe from everybody and you watch and all that stuff, and maybe pick like one or two people you watch, because at the end of the day, you're just being blanketed with so much information constantly that you have no time to get into your own thoughts in your own head and think about stuff. What I realized was, the more I stayed off social media, I was like, well, now I can actually look into my own thought process, and I can think about the day and process all this stuff, instead of constantly distracting myself with podcasts and with all this kind of information. So some degree of watching videos is good and all that. You can learn a little, but have you noticed most of this stuff isn't to help you? It's just entertainment. Do this. Look at how much of what you're watching on a daily basis, whether it's YouTube or whatever, is just entertainment stuff. It's not even helping you. It's not like it's making you a better man. It's not like it's helping you get to another spot in life or helping you progress. It's just making you entertained. It's distracting you from everything. That's what the world is all about now. That's what it revolves around. Dopamine hits, distraction. The world really does need true men. It needs men who are going to make a difference, men who are going to be leaders, men who are going to be moral. The society is completely degraded from this moral concept, degraded from this moral concept of everybody's doing crazy stuff and no one looks out for each other, no one's polite. And we need more of that. We need people who are polite, who have high morals, who have a standard. Religion or not, like, I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ dying for our sins. You may not be, but at the end of the day, there's a moral fiber, a moral framework to that, where it's like, I'm not going to do certain things because that's against the religion, the code, and that's a good thing. That keeps us all in line. So we just need men who are going to make a difference, who are going to pursue hard things and try to learn skills and just try to be better overall. And all this dopamine flooding constantly from all these things is distracting you. I just listed 3 things: social media, porn, video games. That's just 3 things. We could say football. I like football. I watch football. Sports in general. There's a million games on every night. Every night there's like a million games you could watch. I've cut it way down. I've probably cut my football consumption and watching down by like 75%. But still, it's one of those things where I'm like, why do I care so much about this? It has no bearing on my life. And I know at the end of the day, we all need something to relax to and some distractions to an extent, just to unwind. But don't overdo it. Don't let it take you off your mission. So many of us are off our mission because we're distracted by this stuff constantly, where it's like, what game is on? What are we doing? Who's the newest recruit? All this kind of stuff. It's like, that shouldn't be the case. Get these distractions out of your life. Watch your productivity, go way up. And so my challenge to you guys is, step out, evaluate your weaknesses, evaluate what you could improve upon. Because even for me, I was thinking about my vices, and my vice probably is junk food. And I don't struggle with porn. I don't struggle with video games. I don't really struggle too much with sports or anything like that. I don't, drugs, absolutely not. So there's not a ton of vices, but I was like, a vice I may have is junk food. It's something I really want to work on in 2024, where, I may have some stuff from time to time in a planned cheat meal, but I don't need to be eating this garbage all the time, because that too is a dopamine hit. Every time you go to the fridge, you get the Oreos out. That's a dopamine hit. Every time you get, whatever, this terrible food we're eating, that's not even food. It's just processed garbage that they made up in a lab, a lot of it. GMO, I don't need all that in my life. I'd be healthier without it. So I have my own weaknesses, and that's my weakness that I'm sharing with you. Along with, I could still do a better job with staying off my phone. I want to make a difference. I want you guys to know, to see the light, to wake up, to be better, to be better men, to work on improving yourselves. And somebody's got to call this stuff out. Like, you guys need to hold each other accountable. We as a community need to hold each other accountable. You know, it's even like watching Andrew Tate. There's a lot of things I agree with, but there's certain things I obviously don't agree with. But some of his messages about being manly men and all that are good. Now, I don't agree with all of his moral views, obviously, and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, the masculinity principle of it and getting away from vices and all that is a very applicable thing to which I relate to. So I think hold the moral standard, get away from these vices, be aware of the dopamine hits you're getting on an everyday basis, lift heavy, stay in shape, you know, try to be a good man to women. And I even say that, I'm like, you know, I have a daughter, I have a wife, and I'm always thinking, I'm like, well, how would I want someone to treat them? And you don't have to be a total clown, a total, you know, a-hole basically, and it doesn't have to be like that. Like, you can have a moral standard, still be a masculine man, and be attractive to women. So this is just kind of all the stuff that's been on my mind here, and I want to kind of encompass it into a video today. So I hope you guys got something out of this. I'm going to keep the channel going with things that I believe will help all you guys. And I just appreciate you guys watching. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff. I will keep the videos coming. And thank you guys.